It is a time-honored tradition here at Royal Caribbean Blog Podcast to when the calendar gets very close to January and we struggle to find new podcast guests to talk with Billy Hirsch from cruisehabit.com and come up with new wishes that we have for what we would love to see Royal Caribbean do in the new year. And this has become something we've done, I think, for the last, oh my goodness, like 4 or 5 years at least. Has it gone even more than that? Welcome to the podcast, Billy.
Uh, yeah, I see it going back to 2020. So we might have started this. Oh, actually, 2019. Wow. Well, thank you.
Holy
Thank you for
smokes.
having me. I appreciate that doing this each year allows you to keep your commitment, where every year we hang out and you're like, I should have you on the podcast sometime. And then you're like, oh, there's 7 days left in the year. I guess now. I
Yes,
guess now.
yes. Well, the court mandated that I get you on board. So, this is like part of that progress. But listen, at the end of the day, it's always a pleasure to have you on here. Of course, Billy writes at cruisehabit.com. I've cruised with Billy many a time. We've had many a drink together. Most of those drinks, I'm like, what are you drinking, Billy? Because it smells terrible. But he loves his uh scotch, not whiskey, or both.
All scotch is whiskey, not all whiskey is scotch.
See there,
And
that's
whereas Matt drinks like a 16-year-old girl on holiday in Cabo. So we all have our things.
yeah, exactly. But it is one of our things is definitely to always dream the undreamable dream. I think that's copywritten by a certain musical. But we always want to aspire for, what could be. We always think about where we want to see cruising going. And since this is the end of the year, New Year's Eve is around the corner, and there's like a wishing star or something. I don't know. This is the perfect opportunity to come up with 3 wishes that we have for the cruise industry at really Royal Caribbean in 2026. But before we get there, hang on a second. I know everybody listening listens since 2019 at the very least. So you all remember every single wish we've ever made in the past, including the ones we made last year. Because the ones we made last year, we have to figure out, was our wish granted, or are we still wishing fondly for them? So Billy's got actually a list. He actually listened to last year's episode, and that increased my viewership by zero point 0.5. And we have a look at what we wished for last year, and let's see how we did.
Well, I didn't. Thanks to Sharon from Topeka for sending this list in. I assume it's all correct. No, actually, I kept it written down from last year. See, after 6 years, I'm getting good at this. So I'll start off with Matt, your first wish from last year. You wanted better beer selections on Royal Caribbean ships. I don't disagree with that. How do you think Royal did with that?
They didn't. But if what they said was you want better beer selections, or did you want better bourbon selections? Because that's what they did. They added the bourbon selection over at the Mason Jar, and I cannot Google fast enough the name of it. It's Pappy Van Winkle, I believe
Oh,
is the name
Pappy
of the
Van
brand.
Winkle.
Yeah. And evidently that is a very high end bourbon. I'm not sure, Billy, if how where bourbon fits on your Scotch whiskey radar there, but I mean, I didn't get the beer, but I did get better alcohol selection with that, I suppose. So I don't know. That's not really doesn't count, but I mean, at least something changed.
It's a movement in the right direction. Folks that have read anything I've written, watched any of my videos, or ever heard me on this podcast hear me complain about Royal spirit selection. So I've watched them take positive steps. Also with the I forgot the name of the new one, but the tiki bars. Um, so there's progress, even though you didn't get
Yeah.
your beer.
No, they've definitely, I would say this much. To be fair, their cocktail game, like their drink menu game, has gotten a lot better in terms of going beyond pina coladas and the usual thing. They have literally a team that works on this. And when you see new ships launching, whether it's Star of the Seas or Utopia or whatever, they focus on coming up with new cocktails to give people something more to drink than the usual fare. And I really do think we have benefited from that. So while may not have the craft beer that I oh so desperately would love to see on board the ship, we are getting a wider selection of cocktails to enjoy.
So Matt wins as long as he starts drinking things that are a little stronger. I like
Yeah,
it.
correct.
I'll go to my number one from last year, non-playlist shows. And what I meant here is a lot of shows, and not just on Royal, are just, hey, here's a bunch of popular music,
Hmm.
and we're gonna put some choreography to it. And it's fun, but I like a little storyline, and I know Royal can do a little storyline. They've done it, and they keep doing it. But I don't know where we are in terms of were any new non-playlist shows announced this year?
Mostly what you've gotten, yeah, I guess you sort of got, I don't know if you count this as a win or not, because you've gotten, um, you got the new Broadway, like you have Back to the Future on Star of the Seas, you have Charlie and the Chocolate Factory on Legend. So those are legit, production shows. But then,
Yeah.
over in the Aqua Theater and the ice skating rinks, you're still getting the playlist shows essentially. So, to some extent.
Yeah, you know what though? I think we can probably take it as a win with those two, even though we may have lost a couple a couple elsewhere over time. I think
Yes.
that's still a win because I'm not saying hey, playlist shows are bad. They're a lot of fun, right? And for an ice show that makes a lot of sense to me. So yeah, you know what? I think we're going to count that as a win. Your number two from last year, improve room service to include a category filter, saying like, for example, I want to find the best price junior suite.
Did you say
Uh,
room service?
I did, but I can't read apparently.
Okay, because I'm like, wow, that's a
Improve,
very oddly specific request that I had.
yeah, as the words came out of my mouth, I was like, something feels wrong. Improve room search to
Search,
include
yes.
category filter.
Yes.
Um, And I think when you said this last year, and if anyone wants to find it and send us a timestamp link, I said that's why he's a good travel agent, man.
Yeah, exactly. That's also true. Just it's basically the that scene from History of the World Part One, where I feel like I when you're the Roman emperor and someone's feeding you grapes and you're on your couch saying, "Fetch me the finest junior suite out there." That's
Well,
what
thanks for ruining my number one for this year, by the way. Is I wanted the butler service to be replaced where I get to feel like Roman emperor, but yeah, that's fine. It's fine.
yeah. No, unfortunately we haven't. And I've got something along those lines for my wish for this year. I don't want to spoil it, but um I'm still baffled that they don't have this feature. It seems to me like that would be a very useful idea, an option to for not only easily get what you're looking for and then ultimately buy what you're looking for, but just make it easier to book a cruise ultimately, which I would think would be to their advantage. But yeah, unfortunately not.
Yeah, and it's not like other cruise lines do this either. And it makes me wonder if what seems obvious to us as something that would be a win for the cruise lines actually
Mhm.
isn't. Right? If
Yeah.
maybe they really have data to suggest that they can rope people into a particular date and sailing, and they're going to get what they get there, rather than pushing themselves lower in price for, especially for junior suites or suites, but for any room category. So yeah, we'll keep wishing, but I'm looking forward to hearing your iteration on that. My number two from last year. Um, was a show or bar experience that could be revenue generating. I think I mentioned Spellbound as an example,
Hmm.
or the Haunted Mansion bar on a couple new Disney ships. Something to bring the element of show to the lounge experience. And yeah,
No, for the lounge,
uh,
no. But you did get kind of with the new Utopia Railway. I got to preview. I think you're really gonna like. You haven't done the one on Utopia yet, have you?
I walked through it on a media preview. I didn't get to actually sit there and eat. That was just for people special like you, Matt.
Well, I would say, while the one on Utopia you would probably think is quaint, I think you will really like the one on Legend of the Seas because, and this is assuming, of course, the preview that I saw holds up to the same extent. But I do believe, honestly, that that version, which leans into multiple cuisines and multiple areas and is less kitschy and more like you're looking for like ambiance rather than like country bear jamboree type experience where you're uh you know presented like in your face type show, if that makes sense. And I feel like this one is a little less on the shtick, a little more on the cuisine and just the visuals, and that might go there. So it's not a lounge. So the Pesky Pear, which is the bar you were alluding to the other earlier,
Thank you. Couldn't think of the
um
name.
Yeah, I mean, you still get that in some sense, but not to that. I think they still need like a stronger IP if they were ever to go in that direction, to have something like that. But in the meantime, you may have a restaurant that certainly evokes that kind of show element to it.
Hey, and that's, while we're not there, I guess similar to the beer thing, it's a move in the right direction.
Hmm.
I was glad to see, in fact, that that wasn't and I did not that I thought it was going to be, but that it wasn't a one and done with Utopia.
Hmm.
Um, and that they're evolving and iterating upon that. Because when you think about that and then Pesky Pair, you say, okay, well, I guess there's not a ton of daylight that needs to be filled in to be able
Yeah,
to do. To your point, maybe IP is a key part of that. Let's see. So number three for Matt last year, get rid of 70s night.
I think I got this one, Billy. No joke.
I
There's
haven't
now
noticed it
decade.
recently.
There's decades night now. It's not 70s. I actually got some hate email, but people who wanted 70s night back. I don't know if it's fleet wide, but definitely on the newer ships, there's no more 70s night. They do decades night. So basically, what that allows them to do is you go there, you can. They have 70s music, they have 90s music, they have like all sorts. So they kind of combine it all into one rather than leaning into one
Yep.
particular night. Like 70s night isn't dead as disco, but it's getting there. It's where I do believe I get partial credit for this one because I do believe they've moved in that direction with certainly embracing, like I said, multi-decades rather than just pure 70s.
Yep. I agree. You get at least partial credit for that. And it makes sense because it's not alienating, right? When you do a decades night, it becomes alienating to do a decades night that some people might not be able to relate to very well.
Yeah,
So
I
makes
agree.
sense.
Yeah.
And where are we for the for my third from last year? There we are. Uh, better announcements and comms. I essentially, and I was on a different cruise line just recently, and mentioned this as well. Um, Everyone's using the apps for getting the schedule and seeing what's going on, finding menus and things. That's great. Why can't we move announcements over to push notifications so that it's just a little less? I don't know. So many announcements to me. I understand like a midday one, but when they come in frequently throughout the day, it just feels distracting and everything stops for a moment. And I personally don't love it, but I don't think I haven't noticed a shift in that direction.
No, not technically, no. Royal does on the newer ships, especially, they don't do the announcements anymore. They'll do like they'll have like on embarkation day, right at sail away, the captain will come on board and say, welcome aboard. We're gonna, get the whole, here's the emergency signal and all that. And then basically that's the last thing you hear in terms of announcements. They try to have very minimal announcements, but again, this is something they're only doing on newer ships to reduce the disruptions. That's your point earlier. But you're not going to get them in push notifications, or it doesn't solve the problem of what did he say?
Yeah.
Because if you're in a public area, it's almost impossible to hear what is being said over the PA. You'd have to be in like a smaller venue or a hallway to truly understand it. So I do
Yeah, you
think
have to be in a hallway because if you're in your room, you can't hear it. And then you got to either race to get up and open the door a little bit,
yep,
or you go, no, I think it's on the television. But all these televisions on ships now, they have to like boot up.
yeah.
And so even if they're putting the audio on the navigational channel or whatever, by the time you get there, it's done. Sorry, there's a little pent up frustration on this one.
Fair enough. Well, let's jump right into the wishes for this year. And of course, since I am a gentleman and a scholar, I'll let you go first, Billy, with your first wish for Royal Caribbean in 2026.
So this one I don't expect to be done in 2026, but
Okay.
I would love to hear an announcement, a commitment to it.
Okay.
And that is a to the metal refurb plan, especially for maybe Voyager and Radiance class, but I'd even take Freedom class.
Hmm.
And what I'm talking about is not when, okay, well, we replace some soft goods and, maybe they even change the theming of one venue, but really for staterooms. And that's an expensive thing to do. I know it is. But we saw Royal Caribbean Group do this with Celebrity on some ships. Revolution was kind of interrupted by the madness of 2020. But like Celebrity Millennium looks amazing. Even the staterooms, everything, it looks brand new.
Hmm.
And I bring that up because I was thinking of what we have ahead with more Icon class builds. And then in 2030, 2031, something like that, I think is when we're expecting Discovery builds. Well,
Yep.
that's kind of a long time still to wait. That's still 5 years before we can get the very first one
Yes,
of the
correct.
Discovery class. And yeah, some of the ships are getting long in the tooth, but if you look at the fact they're willing to sail ships for 30 years, that means that Freedom class ships could have another 10 years before hitting the 30-year mark. Radiance class still could have 4 to 8 years before hitting this. So a lot of these ships, I suspect we're going to see a lot of tonnage culled, if you will, taken out to pasture once Discovery class starts sailing, because then you can start solving for people that don't want or itineraries that can't facilitate the really massive ships. But that's still a ways out. And it Royal has had the trouble in the past, and they still do a little bit with having kind of two classes of ships. I don't mean wrong use of the word class there. Two very different experiences.
Yes.
Whether you're on, let's say a Radiance class versus an Oasis or Icon or Quantum, and that problem's only going to get worse.
Yeah, I agree.
So,
I
given that
agree.
they have some time here with these ships, and they need some of those smaller ships.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you're not wrong on any of those points. It's something that there is definitely this divergence that's occurring between the bigger classes, the newer ships, and the older ships. I think for a lot of it, I mean, obviously, Discovery class is the hope that they'll eventually, and if you're listening to this, Discovery class is the long rumored, semi-confirmed, but not really, new ship class that is going to essentially be more like not expedition size by any means. It's going to offer Royal Caribbean a smaller, and I'm using air quotes here, relatively speaking, new ship to replace and offer some more exotic itineraries. Um, but I do think, Billy, that like they're I think they see the issue, but they also, at the end of the day, I mean, these ships are still functional and it's not a bad experience. It's hard to jump from, talking about Star of the Seas and then in the same breath talk about, Rhapsody of the Seas, right? And be able to really connect the two. But for what it is, I mean, I think they're willing to. I agree that it's something that's becoming more and more noticeable if you jump between the two. But for what it's worth, they seem to be willing to deal with it in the short term. But it is, it's like when you watch these commercials and it's like, well, that's definitely not any of those,
Yeah.
grouping of 6 to 8 ships that are in the fleet currently. They just don't match up to that at all.
Yeah, and listen, maybe the answer is a very small number of these ships get that kind of treatment, right? Because if you're promoting a world cruise, for example, if you're promoting some new really exotic itineraries,
Hmm.
even if there's just a way to close that gap a little bit, I guess time will tell. But that's what I'm hoping for, is an announcement along those lines.
There you go. My first wish for 2026 is something I wrote a blog post about, and I still feel like I really, really want this one badly. A search feature in the app. So, to be able to be in the Royal Caribbean app and be able to search like text based, like, there's like a keyword, like, there's an event coming up, like Sexiest Man competition or the 4 o'clock trivia. When is the 4 o'clock trivia? Type in, trivia, type in, competition, whatever, and you have a filter that allows you to see the events coming up. I would kill for that idea because I hate going through the entire schedule, especially on like a 7 night cruise, because there's one day when it's going to happen. You have no clue when. So you got to go through day one, scroll all the way through. You know what I mean? They have some grouping filters, like if it's a show or if it's a sales pitch, but it's not the same thing. And I think it's just from a quality of life type improvement, it would be a huge upgrade to have that.
Yeah, I would think that more repeat cruisers would like that even more, because they may have an idea of
Yes.
what they're looking for.
Yep,
Whereas
absolutely.
others, hey, it's new and they're scrolling. But there are a lot of repeat cruisers out there. I love this. And I strongly suspect that for both you and I, we look at it and go, okay, out of the technical challenges there are, that one is not,
No,
it's not
that's
really a challenge.
it's
That's a
not a
real
challenge at
simple
all.
thing.
Yes,
Not
because
a,
the app
not a
already
lot to
has,
index there.
yeah, it's already a text field. It just needs to be able to
Yeah.
search for it. It's not asking for a lot. So I feel like the technical hurdle is so low on this one. And I think actually new cruisers though, I mean, new cruisers know there are certain things that happen on a cruise, right? Maybe not they don't know the specific events, but they're like, is there
Sure.
trivia? Is there, whatever to
Yeah,
be able to search for
that
it
makes sense.
would be helpful. So anyway, that's my number one. Back to you for number two.
Number two, fewer but larger packages. Anytime we talk about what's included, what's not, that can be controversial because some people want everything in there, some people want it all a la carte, and somehow both categories of those people will, at some point, say they're feeling nickel and dimed. But I do think that given the ever increasing complexity of Royal Caribbean's offerings,
Hmm.
I like the idea of packages, but with the complexity they're risking to me making it a little complicated.
Hmm.
I
Yeah.
like the idea that you can go a la carte or get a package and know what your drink costs are going to be. I like the idea that you can kind of wing it on dining or get the ultimate dining package and it's all built in and you know you're going to save some money. You're not getting that big bill at the end. Same with a lot of these things. But as you know, like today we have drinks, the key, ultimate dining, internet, but there's more, right? We have now Royal Private Destinations and the Royal Beach Club, for example. I suspect, and I apologize if this has already been clarified how it's going to work. I suspect that's being done like a shore excursion as far as the way it's being sold.
Yes, correct. 100%.
And that's not wrong. That makes sense to me. I also understand somebody might say, listen, I'm going on this cruise and I want everything, every part of the royal experience included.
Yeah.
And to me, that would be an option, right?
Yeah.
Um, the that extends to as additional private destinations open over the next I forgot how many, 3 years, 4 years,
Yeah.
as far as what they've announced. There will be other considerations there, even where the destinations are included, where maybe for additional dining options or other experiences. And yeah, these things are often short excursions when we're talking off the ship. That makes sense. But when if ultimate dining doesn't include perhaps dining at some private destinations, for example, there seems to be a gap there. And then you have people just picking from this large menu. And again, I like options, but I think there's something to be said for offering a way to simplify it. Even if they kept the packages, so maybe it's even more packages. Maybe it's, yeah, keep what you got,
Hmm.
but allow a really easy way of bundling to save some money.
Yeah, I think it's a great idea. I mean, I think that part of it, when we saw with during Black Friday, they had the all-in package that combined
Mhm.
dining package, drink package, and access to things like the beach club. I think there is a percentage of people who definitely want that. And it's an easy, but it also did save some money, especially if you were already going to buy those things.
Yeah.
Internet was the other thing. I knew there's something else included there. Um, it's kind of funny because remember back in the day they used to have Royal Caribbean used to have they used to have a secondary alcohol package, the beer and wine package.
What,
um
classic? Is that what they called it? Something
oh
like
yeah,
that.
the classic versus the deluxe. Deluxe still exists and classic was the beer and wine package, and they got rid of it because there was too much confusion between both guests and crew members as to which one it is and what's included. I mean, you all listening know the general public is not necessarily the smartest people in the world. And, they buy the beer package and then think, what do you mean? And it only includes beer. I thought this would include, whatever. It doesn't matter. But it just gets confusing and it becomes cumbersome. And so having a one drink package to rule them all type thing just seems to be simpler. But I do agree that there is an advantage and a benefit to having some more things simply wrapped up into one combo bundles. And I think I mean, I have no, obviously we don't have access to, sales numbers or anything like that. But the last two Black Fridays, there have been these like combo deals. And I think there's gold in them darn hills. I feel like there's an opportunity there.
They wouldn't be doing it on Black Friday if it didn't work.
Right.
And it's
That's true.
not something that is inherent to Black Friday in terms of its value proposition. So
Yeah.
maybe, maybe.
For my second wish, I am hoping for a return to Labadee. Now, granted, half the year's already gone because Royal Caribbean's already said they're not returning there until at least through the end of May of 2026. So my wish is simply for there to be a Royal Caribbean ship with passengers that visits Labadee in 2026. Obviously, there's a lot of geopolitical stuff behind it. This is not somebody at Royal Caribbean, saying let them eat cake and visit Labadee. It's more of this is a bigger picture kind of problem here, and there's a reason why ships haven't been able to go there. But I do hope that not only are they able to, if by virtue of having ships visit Labadee in 2026, that would presumably mean that the situation in Haiti might actually get somewhat better. I mean, I'm not asking for a miracle here, but just something that's a little more stable, safer, etc. So I'm really hoping that visit to Labadee will be in our future, which would then obviously have the tangential benefit of also for the country itself to be able to be a little more stabilized. But it just it's like something's been missing, not having those visits to Labadee. And gosh, I mean I miss it. While I am always going to prefer, a perfect day at Koki over Labadee, I will freely admit going to Labadee has always been a highlight. It's always been a nice, like, you know what? This is a nice change of pace. And I feel like it does offer not only more value for the cruiser, but also just it's a very, I guess, quaint experience, a very peaceful experience
Yep.
over there. And I really enjoy that. So I'm hoping we'll be able to return there in 2026.
Yeah, here's hoping for the benefit of cruisers, for the benefit of the people of Haiti, in terms of that would mean there's positive movement there,
Yep,
and especially for all the people that Royal Caribbean employs in Haiti.
absolutely. 100%.
But it is a peaceful, lovely place to visit.
Absolutely. All right, down to our last wish, Billy. Make it worth it.
Themed club nights as entertainment.
Okay,
So
that's
this
an
is
interesting one.
in a similar but different vein to last year's with the show/bar experiences.
Hmm.
Royal Caribbean undeniably is great at entertainment. And it strikes me that often that entertainment, not always, but often that entertainment is really concentrated heavily, is isolated almost to the theater and Aqua Theater, Aquadome.
Yep.
Um, there, depending on the ship, there are different venues that are used as kind of a nightclub. And I'm a late night person, but I'm not a nightclub person.
Hmm.
This wouldn't have been something I ever thought about if not for, I mean, I get a lot of my ideas because from different cruise lines. I've sailed 15 of them so far. I'm going to keep trying new ones. Virgin does this, and I think it's great. And what they'll do, it's not a whole big production, but if they have some specialty acts as part of the shows that they can bring into the nightclub, and so you have a theme, maybe it's a generation, a decade, or maybe it's some other theme, whatever that theme is. You have a little bit of decorations, you have the music theme to that, uh, lights, people get to dress up and participate in that way, and you open the club night and you get people going, you get people on the dance floor with these acts that open the evening. The talent is already there. It's we know that they can put in these spaces in Studio B and other spaces. They can change lighting and bring in some props and decorations, and people like theme nights. So it seems like kind of a relatively low cost, low effort way to add some fun to the late night section of the cruise.
Yeah, I agree. I would love that idea. I mean, anything that kind of mixes up the entertainment stuff. I mean, again, this is something that a new cruiser may not pay that much attention to, but I do think they would appreciate it nonetheless. Like, variety is the spice of life, and it definitely applies to entertainment as well. When there's something that's like, hey, we're gonna, this particular night, we're changing it up, and we've seen, you know, this with like maybe like a bar singer or something like that will have like we're gonna do Billy Joel night in the Schooner Bar. We've seen that before, right? And it's just nice to have like a theme and change up. So I'm with you 100%. I think it's a great idea, and I would hope that it would be something that would really add a little flavor to the overall feel of the entertainment. So it doesn't feel like monogamous by any means, but like just like that it feels like more like there's just there's something else there, and I think that helps give passengers the sense of like, wow, okay, this is something special, and I like that.
Yeah, they're not just opening a venue and putting on a playlist, right? It is something special. And it, man, if this one happens, I look forward to telling you all about it because you go to bed at 10:30 at night, so you'll never find out.
And my final wish, I thought about this one for what could I really want for? And you might say I'm shooting low on this one, but I'm going for it anyway. Please let 2026 be the year we get the announcement. I'm not even going for full details. Just the announcement of the Discovery class. You kind of talked about it a little bit there earlier, but I mean, I thought we were going to get this back in 2024, and here we are on the precipice of 2026, um, and still don't have it yet. So I'm a little surprised, quite frankly. Um, but anyway, I'm hoping this is the year we get Discovery Class confirmation. It's happening. Here's the basic details, size and this. I mean, I feel like it's a bit the Icon Class. You get kind of like, okay, this project's happening. We're working on this general idea, but ship name and home port and all that probably will be forthcoming. But I would really love to finally get more stuff out of there. So, yeah, I just please let this be the year.
It does seem like if things are on track in terms of the timing that's been discussed,
Mm-hmm.
we're going to have to get something soon.
Yeah.
Because you figure they're going to need to lay down steel in another year, 2 years at most, I think, for the first one, because it always takes longest for the first. And at that point, that's when stuff leaks. So you have to start releasing something, and you want to start teasing it out. And you open those booking windows a couple years out.
Yeah.
So yeah, here's hoping.
I feel like Rolla has gotten better about the leaks, much to my chagrin, because it made my job a lot easier when there were just a lot of leaks out there. But they've really been playing it much closer to the vest in these last couple of years than when I first started the blog up. But I digress.
Yeah, I mean that's true. But once you have stuff at the shipyard,
Yeah.
it's hard for anyone to do anything about thousands of contractors crawling all over with holding blueprints.
Yeah, no, for sure. I was like, on that note, I remember when Icon of the Sea's name, they kept that like a secret for a long time. They just kept on referring to the build number there. But it is interesting how sometimes some secrets are very well kept and others are like just the worst kept things in the world. But I had a quick question for you, unrelated to this, before we wrap up, because Billy, you are a multifaceted cruiser. You do cruise on Roller Crew, but other brands. You love Celebrity too. Point Choice. Oh goodness, the new program, Points Choice, is coming out in early 2026, and I just wanted to get. I'm putting you on the spot, Billy. When they say, Mr. Hirsch, you're going on let's say you're going on a celebrity cruise. Which program do you want your points earned towards? Will you be earning your points on any of the RCG brands towards Captain's Club, Crown and Anchor Society, Venetian Society? Where will your points be going, since you are you're very cruise agnostic?
Yeah, I think if the program, if the benefits and the tiers continue to exist as is, if there aren't
Yes.
changes between now and then, and it's just for new points, so you're just adding on to whatever you have, whether that's zero, you have nothing with Silver Sea, and you start. I'm probably inclined to keep putting them towards Celebrity because I'm roughly the same level, not just because of what they do now, but in terms of actually where I've earned status on both lines. And I go, well, Diamond Plus would be nice for like that extra drink
Mm-hmm.
on Royal. But I'm probably not getting the Pinnacle on Royal. So, okay, that'd be nice. Whereas I spend more of my time on Celebrity. And I don't think I'll earn enough points on either to get anything of real value on Silver Sea as much as I'd like to.
No,
so
not at all.
I've actually put some thought into this a few times, and I wonder if we'll see any other changes, coming up with that. But as of now, I think I'll stack them towards Celebrity.
All right, that makes sense. I was genuinely curious, like, because I knew, the Diamond Plus thing, but then I wasn't sure how many points you had in either program, but I think that makes some sense because essentially you're kind of in this this point where unless you hit Pinnacle or Zenith, there's no real change
exactly.
you can foresee in the near future. So
good. Exactly.
Well, thank you so much for joining us here, Billy. Of course, you can check out Billy's website, cruisehabit.com, and someone start the countdown because we have 364 days until Billy rejoins us on the podcast at the very least. For next year's wishes. But I hope you have a wonderful holiday season, Billy, and I hope that you have many more cruises coming up here in the new year.
Likewise, hopefully I can see you and your wonderful family on some of them.
As we get to the end of the year, just want to say thank you for listening to us here on the podcast. We've gone through some changes here on the podcast, hopefully positive changes. I hope. And looking forward to an even better year in 2026 and more of your questions, which we're going to get to next year. Starting with an email from Gianna Bender. Hi, Matt. I want to book Izumi Sushi for dinner one night of our cruise, but don't want to book the same night as formal night. I've looked everywhere for a cruise compass, but can't find one. We're going on Anthem of the Seas, 6-night Western Caribbean, and Perfect Day in May. Any idea? Thanks so much. Love your videos. So, there's a couple things to keep in mind. Number one, usually formal night or dress your best night, whatever you want to call it, is almost certainly on your first sea day, assuming, actually, it's not even assuming. If it's like on day 2, then it's going to be that day. You can all but guarantee that. You could, however, Gianna, wait for the week of your sailing. So, like about 7 days or less beforehand. The Royal Caribbean app will update, and then you'd be able to tell for certain. And that's certainly enough time for you to be able to book a reservation in the cruise planner. You could do that. You just got to make sure you make a reminder to do that, obviously, in those last like 3 to 5 days before the cruise. You would be able to do that. But generally speaking, you can all but guarantee that it'll be the first sea day. In some rare instances in which, like, maybe the first 2 or 3 days of the cruise you're in ports for both those days, then it gets a little complicated. But if you look at your itinerary and figure out when your first sea day is, probably it will be the first sea day, assuming it's within the first 3 days of the cruise. But again, you could always just wait and book it, like I said, the week of the sailing, and that would work as well. Next, we have an email from Brian M. from Birmingham, Alabama, who wants to vent. All right, Brian, the floor is yours. He writes, Matt, may I share? I had a chance to book a luxury, spacious balcony room with Royal Caribbean for only $227. That includes taxes and fees. 5 days, 4 nights, unheard of, once in a lifetime price. In December, I booked, and then when I went to seek a flight, I saw that Delta was offering, and I wanted to use a Delta credit card to get all those Delta perks. So I applied for a Delta credit card immediately and was approved immediately. I called the Delta credit card to get my new Delta credit card number over the phone so I could book my flight ASAP. And they said they can't do that. I have to wait until the card arrives in about 10 days. Well, the cruise would start the day before the card arrives, so that does me no good. The cruise starts on Monday, and the card is scheduled to arrive on Tuesday. Does me no good. So I called the Royal Caribbean back immediately and canceled my booking. And of course, the cruise is now sold out. I'm furious with Delta credit card for ruining everything. When the Delta card finally arrives, I'm going to simply close and cancel it. It is hard to accept that I missed out on my opportunity to have a luxury cruise for that price. Dang, well, that stinks. Listen, I get it. I am somebody who does play the credit card points game. I recently did that with JetBlue where I wanted to get status, and so I made that my primary card. So I'm not like somebody who doesn't commiserate with you with that idea. That being said, for that price, $227, I would have said, what Delta points? I don't care. I would have just sucked it up and put it on a different credit card, and in the grand scheme of things, you're going to get those points one way or another. It would have been nice if you could have lined it up there, but I mean, for that price, I don't know, Brian. I might have just said, oh, well, I'll, to heck with that card. I'll just do it. But you're a man of your principles, and I respect that. But you also have one less cruise, so I don't know what else to say. Next email is from Ian Tewksbury, a.k.a. Tukes Vegas from New Hampshire. Hey, Matt. I believe you've taken a round-trip cruise in Alaska. My question is about a one-way trip. We're going on Anthem of the Seas in September of 2027. We fly into Anchorage and leave from Seward. My original plan was to arrive in Anchorage a day or two before the cruise, then take the train to from Anchorage to Seward in the morning of embarkation. The train arrives at 11 a.m. I did see that there are hotels and things to do in Seward. The only reason I would stay in Seward the night before would be to avoid any late train issues. Is this train reliable and on time, or is it like Amtrak where it's like 50-50? What are your thoughts? I've not done this particular itinerary where I've taken the train, but I'm with you on this. Like, Anchorage is going to have more to do. It's a city, right? At least city in the grand scheme of Alaska. Seward, not so much. So there's more hotels, there's more things to do in Anchorage, etc. But of course, Seward is right by the port, and there is something to be said about being able to just be there. And I probably, given how early I like to board the ship anyway, I'd probably stay in Seward the night before the cruise, just to reduce that and any kind of issues that are there, right? Like you just said, the late train issues. I can't speak to whether or not the trains are on time or not. I don't even think that'd be an issue. And I say this, Ian, because, having covered Royal Caribbean blog for as long as I have and various threads and messages, I don't recall really seeing many, if at all, posts about like, oh my goodness, I missed my cruise because I stayed in Anchorage. I'm not saying it's not going to happen, but it's not one of those like notorious, like, oh boy, anecdotally, it's a bad idea. That being said, if it were me, I would probably just stay in Seward just to have a hotel nearby that I could easily get to in the morning. Like, just make my first day of the cruise easy, not starting off with, oh gosh, I hope Amtrak doesn't mess my entire trip up. I don't know, maybe that's just me, but that's how I would lean towards that. And our last email today is coming to us from Andrew. Thanks for all you do to keep us informed with all things royal. My wife just got a new job, and to celebrate, we booked a quick weekend cruise on Wonder of the Seas in January. Immediately after booking, I started looking at drink package and excursion prices. I was pleased to find a package deal on the deluxe drink package and day pass to the new Paradise Island Beach Club on sale for $97 per person, down from $196. At the bottom of the package, it stated 50% off, free Hideaway Beach day pass with purchase. It seemed strange that it would be 50% off of free. I called Royal Caribbean, and a rep verified the Hideaway Beach Pass is included. I'm still thinking that once I got there, they might say some kind of a website glitch because of the weird wording in the ad. Have you ever heard of the free Hideaway Beach Passes being offered as an add-on to a package? Andrew, so this was a Black Friday deal. The 50% off, so this is hard to see in a podcast because you're all listening to this, but it's 50% off in brackets and in parentheses, and then it says free Hideaway Beach Day Pass with purchase. So the 50% off, Andrew, is the marketing speak for the discount you're getting on the package, that combo deal that you booked. And then in addition, you get a free Hideaway Beach Day Pass. So I really believe you're going to get the free pass. It's just the way they put it there in the text. It might be confusing there. But 50% off refers to the combo deal you got, and then plus a free Hideaway Beach Day Pass. So I would not be worried about showing up to the gate there and be like, just kidding, you owe us, so much money. I think you'll be good on that one. So thank you, Andrew. But yeah, that was a Black Friday deal, those combo deals. And, they've kind of been experimenting. I remember last year they had a different combo deal bundle thing. And this year they have the all-in one. So, hey, maybe that's one reason to always keep an eye out for Black Friday for potential discounts that are out there. All right, well, that's going to do it for this episode of the Royal Caribbean Blog Podcast. If you want to email me your questions to be read on the air here, you can always email them, Matt, M-A-T-T, at RoyalCaribbeanBlog.com, Matt at RoyalCaribbeanBlog.com. Until next time, I'm Matt. We'll talk again real soon.